My name is Michael Adams. I am a professor at the University of Ulsan. This is my fourth year teaching at the University of Ulsan. I've taught previously at another university, teaching international business in Korea, and I've been in Korea for many years. Don't ask me how my Korean is. From the United States, I have a master's degree in business administration with an emphasis in global management. And I completed that many years ago. And let's see, I have a nice big family back in the United States, and I like living in Korea. It's very comfortable for me. A lot of students consider themselves good students if they get an A or an A plus. What they don't consider is the difficulty of the material they're studying. They don't consider the competition sometimes. And so there are a lot of factors that go into that. From a professor standpoint, good students, from my point of view, are those who ask questions, get involved in understanding and learning the material for that class. The students usually have developed positive, good behaviors in studying and learning. It means they involve themselves in many aspects of the learning process, which involve the textbook, reading the textbook, studying and learning the lectures, asking questions, not only to the professor necessarily, but to other students, having study groups, students who are actively involved in the learning process, not passively involved. A lot of students think that simply attending class is sufficient for being considered a good student or being a good student, and attending class I think is a very small part of that. So good students have good habits, and they develop good habits in studying and learning the material, and they're active. Okay. What I expect from my students is first and foremost to follow instructions, to be able to pay attention and understand what's going on. Following instructions means there are certain things that I want them to learn that I think are set with the objectives of the course throughout the semester, and so paying attention to what's going on and following instructions. Sometimes I want them to write a report or write a paper, so I think that's important and that's key. Also, from my standpoint as a professor, I think students who are actively engaged in the process, so if there's something that they don't understand, they are going to go through a normal process to try to understand that, which usually involves reading or rereading information from the textbook or the lecture to try to understand it. If they still don't understand it, then they would talk to other students and ask them, do you understand this? What's going on here? Do you know? And then from there, if they still don't understand, then they bring it to the professor. It can go through an email if it's a simple question, or face-to-face, and then try to understand the situation, understand the question or a point from the lecture, something like that. And it's, from my point of view also, and I think third, it's students who submit work on time. I think a lot of people have an unusual concept of when assignments should be submitted. Some students don't like the very structured and rigid, submit it by this time. But let's be honest, that's a lot of life. Life is being on time. When you get into business, it's about being on time. So I think learning good habits, and one of the things for me is being on time with the work.
Yes, of course. There's one additional question.
Mm-hmm.
I have been learning about like deadlines and when to. It's not only about assignments, but in life.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we have short deadlines, if we have like 2 to 3 days to complete it, then we rush and we try to complete it faster. If we have like a week or a month to complete the assignment, we let it go. Oh, I'll do it later. What's your opinion on that? Like, how do you give the assignment deadlines? You give a lot of time for assignments.
I usually give a week, 3 days to a week for most assignments. I try to give advance notice for larger assignments, for reports, projects, presentations that take a little more time to create. And with those, I expect there's a certain time frame that students can get things done. For deadlines, I think they're essential in life. I think it's natural for most people to procrastinate. It's just, I think, who we are. We prioritize things in our minds about what's most important right now and what can I put off and do another day. One of the things that I learned early in my education were some really good habits. And one of the things I learned was if I was taking a test and I had a test on Friday and it was Monday, that normally people would wait until Wednesday or Thursday to start studying. That's a very bad habit. So what I would do is I would study, I would compartmentalize, put into folders different parts of the book that I wanted to study that I needed to prepare for the exam or the test. And so I would study on Monday, I would study some on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Thursday night, let's say I had the exam on Friday morning. Thursday night, after I had studied the whole week, Thursday night I would take time, relax, do something that I enjoy, maybe watch a show to relax, and then Friday morning I would kind of just review all the things that I had studied that week. That way I'm not pressurizing, I'm not putting pressure on it, and I actually learn the material instead of doing what a lot of people do, which is I cram that information into my brain, and then it becomes what I call short-term memory or RAM. It goes into my RAM, and then RAM dump after the test. I don't remember all that. It's kind of an ineffective way, I think. And people do that for business reports, assignments, deadlines for a lot of things. And sure, life gets a little complicated, but I think with prioritizing and then planning, we are able to, I think, more effectively not procrastinate. And then we don't get in that that mode of hurry up and rush. I think our quality improves. I think our attitude improves, and I think we're more relaxed as people.
Yes, that's what happens to me like Graham. Okay, so is it okay for students, let's say one student only, to ask a lot of questions and email and bothering you all the time? How professors feel about it? Like,
if the student, I think some students get in their minds that if they ask a lot of questions to the professor, then the professor is going to think that they're a good student. And also some students, I think, become a little too dependent on the professor for all the answers, when in fact there's a lot of options for answers in the knowledge world, so to speak. Just like I mentioned earlier, if a student had a question, they first, if it's about the textbook, if it's about the material they're learning, the chapter, a specific point, a principle, then they should go to the textbook. Then they should go to the lecture, and then they should probably actually start looking online. Online is can be a great resource. Some of the information can be a little convoluted, difficult to find. And if they still can't find it, then they should go to their other students, the classmates, and try to ask them and try to understand the situation, and then they should come to the professor. There are some classes, for example, when I was in university, I took a physics class. It was part of my required coursework, and some of this stuff was very difficult to understand, so they had created, obviously you had the textbook and the information, you had your classmates you could consult. They also had a tutor, tutors who understood the material. Usually these were assistants to the professor, and these tutors would be available at certain hours, and you could go to the classroom and ask questions and things like that. So there was a process that if you had to take it to the professor, that means that it was, really important, or really didn't understand it, and that's okay. But when one student asks a lot of questions, that's not necessarily problematic, I don't think. I think because in some cases, student groups will usually designate one person vicarious of their age or their experience, or maybe even their knowledge or language skill. Somebody who speaks better English, there are other classmates who don't speak English as well, may be more confident having this one person ask a lot of questions, so it can be okay. But it depends on the question. If the questions are simple or something that they could easily find through the information you've already given them, then that gets to be a little bothersome.
Here's one other question. Some of my friends even think that if you have good connections with professors, like I don't know what they mean by good connections, that they said it will affect your score or it may affect to your like mentorship with your professors. So first question, does it affect to your grades or like whole semester studying? And the second is the mentorship with the professor, like asking questions for their like own businesses or different things in life, not only university. So we will go with the first question. Does it affect, good connections with professors, does it affect for their grades and studying?
Okay. I think a lot of students have that concept. Traditionally, in the United States and a lot of other places, they think that if they bring the professor coffee or if they do nice things for the professor, they wipe the board down or clean the board before class. They do all these other things and are generally, they sit up front. If they ask a lot of questions, if they open their books and take notes or pretend to take notes, I think they have this concept, and those are. I think there's a misunderstanding with some professors that may have an effect on them. It may have a positive effect on them. For me, I look at a lot of different aspects. I don't care where they sit in class. But if I see them in the back and they have their notebook computer open and they're looking at their computer a lot, there's some clues that maybe they're not listening to my lecture, maybe they're doing something else. So I don't really look at all those aspects, asking questions, but when I expect them to be doing work, when I look at deadlines, so if a student is up front asking questions, look like they're actively involved, but they're not meeting the deadlines, that's going to negatively affect their grade. One of the things I tell my students, and I don't think they understand it, is that I don't care who you are. You can be a jerk of a student. You can be the worst student in the world, but if you do the work, I'm going to give you the grade that you earned, even if I don't like you. And there are some students, trust me, this semester, some students, I'm like, this student's really bothering me. I don't really like this student, He seems kind of rude in his questions and some of the way he's going about things. But that's the grade they've earned, and I will give them that grade. Now, on the other hand, if there's a point or a half a point or rounding up that I might give a student, if a student I know has been working hard, they show it in their classwork, they're following up, they're trying to get things in on time, they're saying, I apologize for submitting this late, can you accept it? If they're doing different things like that, if I honestly believe they're working hard, and I see they need a point to get up to the next letter grade, I may give it to them. If there's another student who is not working hard, who doesn't come to class, for example, this semester I think was challenging, last semester was the same, but this semester I had some students who got 24 points out of 100 in class. And they are coming to me at the end of the semester and they say, teacher, I need to pass. I don't like this. When they lay this guilt on me, I have a scholarship that I need to get, and it's important, and all these excuses. I look at those and I say, well, I'm really sorry, but if you really were a good student, you wouldn't have gotten 24 out of 100 in class. And then I'd say, there's nothing I'm going to do. I'm not going to compensate you 40 points so you can pass the class when you didn't do the work. So the student does the work, they work hard, they get the grade. They are not a good student, they're not working hard, they're not going to get the